Hi, my name is Dr. Nick Tedder. I am an Upper Cervical Chiropractor over in Hamilton Mill, Georgia. I wanted to speak with you a little bit today about fibromyalgia in the upper cervical spine, because if you're on this site, if you've clicked on this thing or you're watching this video, that means either you or somebody you know is suffering pretty bad from fibromyalgia, which we all know is a pretty devastating disease. In an upper cervical office, fibromyalgia is one of the top things we see. I probably see more fibromyalgia patients in a week than most medical doctors see in a year. Why? Because simply put, most fibromyalgia is an injury to the upper cervical spine. I'll hit on that in just a minute, but I want to just encourage you with that. So if you're on the site, please take a couple minutes and listen to what we're going to talk about. We'll talk about what we do, how it relates to the upper cervical spine, and then I want to show you a little about what we do to figure out if we can help you, some of the testing and exams that we do, so you're very familiar with what it is that you would get into if you ever go to an upper cervical practice. So again, I specialize in the upper neck, and the way it works is this: is in the very top part of your neck, there's two little bitty bones. And inside those bones is something called the brainstem. And your brainstem is the part of the brain up here. We call it the Christopher Reeves area. The brainstem controls and coordinates everything in your body. And the reason we call it Christopher Reeves area is because when Chris fell off the horse, he injured the top part of his neck and his whole body just went to nothing, right? So his body wasn't sick. What it was, he lost all control from here. In a fibromyalgia patient, what we find is that one of the top two bones, I'm going to do it this way, the bones will literally come out of position, they'll twist like a knotted rope. And when they come out of alignment here in the top part of the neck, you don't feel it. But when they do that, they lock. And when they lock around the brainstem. And that brainstem at that point in time begins to shut down. We call it a glitch. The medical community calls it a glitch. They don't really know what it is, but they say, hey, in fibromyalgia patients, we find a glitch in the brainstem. And they try to treat it with therapies or shock treatment, or medications is the number one treatment, so they dope us up. But if you have this glitch and it's due to a misalignment in the upper cervical spine, then this office can help you, because what we typically do is we basically realign that area, we get the brainstem healthy again, we get the glitch gone, we get it firing again, and guess what happens? All of your body pain, all of your depression, all of your hurting, all of your suffering begins to improve, and in many cases just disappears. And we've had extreme success working with medical doctors and neurologists and pain clinics in the community as they start sending, and we refer back and forth, and getting people well and getting them off the medications and out of misery, because they have a misalignment in the upper part of the neck. So if you have that, put your name and information in that box down below. Have my staff call you, or call my office. Look us up on Facebook, Google me, call us. We have an office in Hamilton Mill, and we have an office down in Sandy Springs. Let's sit down and have a conversation, not a commitment, but a conversation to see if you may have an upper cervical issue and if we can help it. Now, if you do, and you decide that, hey, I would like to find this out, then what we're going to do is we're going to do a bunch of things, but the two main things I want to show you today is we're going to do something called thermography. So you can see that on my computer here. Thermography is where we basically take a scan of the spine and the nerve system, and what we're looking for is this, basically. So if you have a problem in the brainstem, if you don't have a problem, say you're normal upper cervically, no brainstem issue, and that's not causing your fibromyalgia, when we scan you, you're going to be greens all the way down. A normal person without a problem has green. Green is good. If you have an injury here, a misalignment, a brainstem issue that's been undetected by other people, this graph will show us by showing us a multitude of different colors. I don't have time to go into all the colors right now, but if you have yellows, oranges, and reds, then you have a serious injury to the brainstem, which upper cervical is your answer. There's no other doctor that can correct that. Upper cervical is your answer. If we find out on exam, the next thing that we will do is we will shoot a series of specific scientific x-rays of the upper cervical spine. The upper two bones can misalign in 274 possible combinations, mathematical vector combinations. So when an upper cervical doctor goes to correct that, we have to have those vectors and measurements properly, so we don't have to twist, turn, crack, rotate, pop necks, right? So we want to specifically realign the bone where it's supposed to be, free up the brainstem, and allow your body to come back to life again. Allow your body to return to health. I'm going to give you a story of a lady named Sarah. That's not her real name, but we got to protect people's identity, so I want to just give you the story here. If you became a patient in the office, you'll figure out who she is, because there's hundreds of them walking around. But Sarah was a patient that I was invited to speak at her church about 7 years ago. I went and spoke at her church about upper cervical care. When I spoke to her, when I spoke to the church, I had not met her yet, but she heard my message about upper cervical and healing and how God heals the body from above down. Make a long story short, she called my office about 2 months later. She made an appointment, and her story goes like this. She was in her 60s. She was debilitated from fibromyalgia. Literally, she was on 27 medications. She sat in bed. She had not gone to church anymore. She doesn't play with her grandkids. And the only reason she was at church that day is because she heard some guy was going to come talk about healing and health. So she made it out of bed that day to come hear me speak. But she literally lived like a zombie in bed. 27 drugs, couldn't get out of bed. I mean, she was a zombie. And so what we did on her is we did the exact same exam I put in that video above. We did the x-rays. We did a scan. And we began to get Miss Sarah well. We began to help her and treat her, and she started to get her life back. And within a few months, probably 6, 7, 8 months, she went from a debilitated, bedridden 60-year-old woman to a woman who no longer had a cane. We reduced her medication level from 27 drugs to 2. Her doctor released her off all these drugs. She was back playing with her grandkids. She was going to church full time, and she was dancing. She's a 60-year-old woman who's dancing at church, and that's huge for her. The big thing that I want to point out here, though, is about a year after I'd known this lady, and she came in one day and she gave me a sheet of paper. And she said, "Dr. Nick, I want you to look at this." I'm looking through it. It's from Publix. And what it is, it's her pharmacy bill. And I was like, "Yeah, what is this all about?" She's like, "I want you to see what we've done here." I said, "What is it?" She goes, "Look at the number at the end." I said, "Yes, it's $3,230. I said, "Yeah." She goes, "That's what I was spending every single year out of pocket above and beyond Medicare." She was spending $3,200 a year on drugs out of pocket. Here's the kicker. Right up below that, because this is for her taxes, right? Right up below that, it shows what Medicare spent. Medicare spent $107,000 Medicare payments to the doctors for drugs. So between between Sarah and your Medicare, they were paying $110,000 a year for Miss Sarah to just get sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. So what we did is we got her off all the drugs. So Sarah's like crazy. She's like, "Listen, I'm no longer, not only are we saving Medicare and taxpayers $100,000 a year, but I no longer have to spend $3,000 of my own money." And she's well. This may sound like you. So if you're suffering and you've got fibromyalgia, you have nothing to lose to get checked and see if you could be the next Sarah. And Sarah's not the only one. There's hundreds of them. Sarah just came to mind because it was $100,000 is a big chunk of change. So I wanted to share that with you and hope that moves you, hope that inspires you. So if you have fibromyalgia, you know somebody has fibromyalgia, I'm going to encourage you. There's a lot more to it than this, but I wanted you to kind of see what we do. Call the offices, reach out. Let's sit down and have a conversation. Let's see if we can be the answer, because fibromyalgia is so debilitating. It's one of the worst conditions I've ever seen with somebody, and people always spend tens of thousands of dollars trying to find an answer with real no answer. So again, my name is Dr. Nick Tedder. Give me a call. Give my doctors a call. Let's sit down and figure out if we can help. Can't wait to meet you. Talk to you soon.